life doesn't ask permission before it changes. It doesn't knock politely on your door before it rearranges everything you thought you knew. No, life barges in. It bends the road you're on, it shifts the ground beneath your feet, and it looks at you without an apology as it asks, what are you gonna do about it? And here's the truth. The people who win in this world, they're not the ones with the biggest muscles. They're not the ones with the most money in the bank or the most degrees on the wall. They're the ones who can take what life throws at them and adapt. Because life is not predictable. It's certainly not neat. It's not orderly. And those who cling to what was, or get angry when life deviates from how it was quote-unquote supposed to be, well, they get left behind. But on the other hand, those who bend and shift and move with the chaos, well, they are the ones who rise. And like so many of us, right, time teaches. I've learned this the hard way. I used to think if I planned enough and prepared enough, if I controlled enough, I'd be safe. But life does not reward control, it rewards flexibility. I look back to jobs that ended, friendships that dissolved, unexpected detours. Every time I thought, this must be the end. But it never was. It was always some sort of beginning. The moment I let go of what I thought should happen, the moment I stopped demanding life play by my rules, well, that was the moment I started to find freedom. Because life obviously does not care about Eddie's rules. It's interesting that, Darwin, who we all know from grade school, right, he did not coin the term survival of the fittest. That was Herbert Spencer later. What Darwin really said was, it's not the strongest that survive, not even the smartest, it's the ones most adaptable to change. And I think about that. I think about the importance and the weight of the ability to be agile, to evolve with the circumstances in your environment. I mean, think about it. Entire species disappear because they just couldn't adjust. Entire industries collapsed because they couldn't evolve. And the same is true for us individually. Adaptability is not a luxury. It's not a nice to have. It's survival. It's the growth of success, of, you could say life itself. And I want to share a story that kind of exemplifies this. First time I heard it was, maybe a decade ago on a podcast called Business Wars that I'm not even sure is around anymore, but it stuck with me. And it's the difference between Blockbuster and Netflix and their sort of battle during a very transitory time in the digital space. And so the height of its power in the early 2000s, Blockbuster was unstoppable, right? I'm 37, almost 38, and if you're in my age, you remember how awesome it was going to Blockbuster on the weekend. That was peak living, pizza and Blockbuster, right? They had over 9,000 stores, millions of customers walking in every weekend to rent those movies. They were the kings of entertainment. But then something happened. A small company called Netflix started mailing DVDs to people's homes. No late fees, no trips to the store, just convenience, right to your door. And the critical part is Netflix, as they went on this venture, kept adapting. They moved from the mail to streaming. They were looking ahead, while everyone else was, at best stuck in the present moment, sometimes even looking back, right? They asked, how is the world changing? And then they moved with it. Blockbuster did not. They laughed at the idea, right? In fact, Netflix once offered to sell themselves to Blockbuster for like $50 million, and Blockbuster turned it down. Today, Netflix is worth billions, obviously, and Blockbuster is no more. And it is, to me, the quintessential story of adaptability. It's the difference between thriving and disappearing, between leading and becoming a memory. The ones who adapt, they don't just survive, they define the future. And, on a personal level, most of us are not running billion-dollar companies. But we all are navigating a life that doesn't go as planned. As much as we wish that it did, it's just not the way it works out. The relationship that ends, the job that disappears, the health scare that comes out of nowhere, the opportunity that arrives when you least expect it. These are curveballs. And in those moments, the question isn't, did I have a perfect plan? Never, right? The question is, here's the situation, can I now adjust? That's everything. Can you take what's left and work with it? Can you still find a way forward? Because if you can, there's nothing you can't handle. Adaptability is a superpower. It means no matter what comes, you're not defined by circumstance, you're defined by response. You're not chained to what you lost, you're empowered by what you can build. You're not afraid of change, you are fueled by it. When you're adaptable, the world becomes an ally instead of an adversary. Obstacles become teachers. Setbacks become merely points to pivot. And endings become new beginnings. It's a game I've had to play many times in the storytelling, podcasting, media space. And it's one I'm playing now, right? How do we evolve with the times, with the changing landscape? And, I'll give a quick example of the first time that happened. And I won't go in too deep here because I don't want to bore anybody. But essentially, on YouTube, I used to write 3-minute speeches. I mean, they were essentially songs. I'd write the background music. There'd be a slow beginning, a middle, and then a crescendo. And that's what I did. And for a while it worked. And then the media landscape sort of changed and the algorithms changed. Podcasting started blowing up and people wanted to put headphones on and walk for an hour, run for 2 hours, listen on their way to work. And it was like, listen, if you don't learn to adapt your style and figure out how to entertain and captivate an audience over a longer period of time, you're going to lose. And so that was the first time where it was like, all right, as a writer, as a creative, as a speaker, storyteller, you got to figure it out. And that was scary, right? The safety nets I thought I had disappeared. I wanted to resist and fight the change. I wanted to scream, this isn't fair. But what good is resistance when the world's already moved on? The road had already bent. The question was, would I bend with it? And once I did, I found opportunities I never would have seen. Doors I never would have knocked on suddenly opened, because what happens when you adapt, you stop clinging to the door that closed and you start noticing the doors that are open all around you. The world is changing faster than ever. Tech, culture, the economy. What worked yesterday won't work tomorrow, right? That saying, what got you here won't get you there. And the people who thrive in this world, they aren't the ones waiting for things to go back to normal. They're the ones creating a new normal. They're the ones that can wake up every day and say, I don't need to be perfect. I don't need it to go my way. But whatever comes, I will find a way through. That is the edge. That is the advantage. So I'll sum it up with this. You have infinite upside and opportunity. There is a world laid out for you beyond comprehension. But we need to adjust the mindset. Don't pray for a smooth road. Don't hope life stays the same, because it won't. Instead, build the muscle, build the resilience, build the superpower. The ability to adapt, to bend without breaking, to shift when life shifts. Because if you can do that, you are unstoppable. Maybe not the strongest, the fastest, the smartest, but the one who can take what life throws and make it fuel. Blockbuster didn't fail because it was small, it failed because it refused to change. Netflix didn't succeed because it was invincible, it succeeded because it was looking forward, because it adapted. That can be your story too. Not that you had an easy road, but you had the courage and the flexibility, the adaptability to rise no matter what. Remember, life is not about having perfect plans. It's about finding a way, finding a response to whatever shows up. And the greatest response you'll ever give is simple. I will adjust, I will adapt, and I will rise. There's a quote from Richard Branson that stuck with me. He essentially says, if someone offers you an amazing opportunity, but you don't know how to do it, say yes and then figure it out later. This little piece of wisdom is a key that unlocks so much opportunity in life. I mean, it sounds simple, right? Almost too simple, but it contains the DNA of progress and growth and achievement. Because nothing meaningful in life comes with guarantees. Life doesn't hand you certainty, it hands you windows. And when those windows open, hesitation is the enemy. And let's use space travel as an example here. Let's go all the way back to 1962. John F. Kennedy standing in front of that crowd at Rice University saying, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." Here's the thing. When he said that, the United States had no rocket that could make the trip, no spacecraft, no suit, no navigation system. The roadmap did not exist, but the declaration came first. The yes came first. It had to. Right? And then the entire decade was spent figuring it out. That one leap of faith sparked innovation that not only took humanity to the moon, but changed the world forever. It's easy to forget that truth. You don't need to know how, right, before you start. You don't need to, know the entire path or have it laid out before you. Same industry, a couple decades later, take Elon Musk and SpaceX. To me, it's even more remarkable. Musk wasn't a rocket scientist when he decided to build rockets. He literally taught himself aerospace engineering in textbooks. First 3 launches failed. Of course, everyone told him to quit. Critics said it was impossible. But he'd already said yes, he'd committed. And because of that yes, he kept adjusting, kept learning, kept adapting until the 4th launch worked. And by the way, saved the company. That's the Branson quote in action. You say yes and you figure it out. And lately, in my own little world, I've been seeing this principle play out. I'm going to go back to athletics. Again, I go to this drawing board a lot, just because there are a lot of metaphors you can make, a lot of parallels you can make. To me, none are as clear, concise, and really depict that 1-to-1 ratio the same way that fitness does, running does, lifting does. That struggle to me is life, so I pull from it often. My trainer started giving me, on top of the regular workouts, these fun but ridiculous weekend challenges, right? He makes this video, sends it to me, sometimes playfully, like super intense, like here's your mission, and it gamifies it a little bit. But the workouts are hard, right? They push me way out of my comfort zone. Whether it's an hour-long kettlebell carry, 15-minute wall sit, extended treading water, putting on a ruck and climbing my 12-floor stairs for an hour, 200 burpees in 25 minutes. You get the idea. Stuff that, it's not climbing Everest, but you hear it and you go, ooh, that doesn't sound fun. Maybe on the surface, it even sounds a little absurd, and you want to stop and think, can I even do this? But that's the beauty of it. It conditions me to say yes first, and once I commit, there's no more debate, right? The question is no longer if, it's how. And that transition is everything from a starting point. There's no if, this is happening, how is it gonna happen? And when you do that, my God, do you empower yourself, right? Sometimes it's brutal, right? The burpees are a great example. I underestimated those, and I paid the price. Right, got it done, just with probably more suffering than, if I respected the process and came out slowly and methodically, as opposed to just thinking I could blast through them. You live and you learn. But again, I got through that micro hell. And that's the pattern of life itself. We spend so much time waiting for certainty, waiting until we feel perfectly ready, forgetting that readiness is a myth. If you wait until you have every detail mapped out, you'll never move. The opportunities that change your life rarely come with instruction manuals. They show up wrapped in uncertainty, in discomfort, in risk. Your job is not to have all the answers. It's to step forward anyway. And what these challenges remind me of is this: I am stronger than I think. Not because I know everything, but because I trust myself to figure it out as I go. You don't discover strength by watching from the sidelines. You discover it in the fire. You discover it in the chaos. The willingness to step into something you don't fully understand, but you know you'll adapt. Kennedy certainly didn't know how to get to the moon, but he declared it anyway. He put it into the universe. Musk didn't know how to build rockets, but he started anyway. He committed. Branson was right. Opportunities don't wait for your permission. They don't wait for you to feel ready. So when the next door opens, and it will, don't hesitate. Don't overthink or wait for certainty. Understand the power in saying yes, stepping in, and figuring it out later, because that's how change is made. That's how we grow. And it's how we uncover the strength we've had all along. You're driving down the road, and you see someone running. As your car approaches, it becomes pretty clear that this person is flying. 5.5, 6 minute pace, comfortable, confident. They look fit. You can tell they've done this a million times. This is their wheelhouse. Awesome, you think. Good for them. Drive up a few more blocks, and you see someone else running. But this person's a bit heavier, right? Clearly not in good shape, but they are running. In fact, a run-walk thing. Average speed per mile isn't really a thought or consideration here. You can see the pain in their face, the sweat running down their forehead as they navigate a world that is foreign to them. Both running situations are incredible. Right? The first person worked their ass off to get there. You can see the commitment and the consistency. You can see the discipline, the pain tolerance, all of it. But the second person does something to my soul. Because I know what that's like. To step into a world you know nothing about. See, that second runner, they're not leaning on a foundation of discipline or consistency. There's no muscle memory or routine. It's pure courage. It's getting up in the face of fear and doing it anyway. That is everything good about life condensed into a single action. I recently heard someone say that they stopped going to the gym, after trying it because it was intimidating. And I respected the honesty. Right? Those stories we tell ourselves in our heads, they feel real, right? When we are new to a foreign world, they're not pretty. It's like, I look dumb, I'm clueless, people definitely think I suck, and the narratives go on and on and on. But as I've evolved, I've come to understand the power in those moments. They deserve to be celebrated. They are everything. See, most people don't reach finish lines, and it's not because the journey is long. It's because the start is pain. Being self-conscious is pain. Being the slowest, weakest, newest, the one with the most to learn, the highest hill to climb, that is pain. How many people are willing to play that role? How many are willing to walk down a street while quote-unquote experienced runners fly by? How many people are willing to go to the gym and bench just the bar? Which is less than plenty of folks even warm up with. But that is the spot where greatness begins. That spot isn't for the timid. It's for those with the courage to change their lives, to step into the fire. When I see people who are clearly out of shape lacing up their shoes, I think you are the embodiment of courage. And sure, we can talk trophies and finish lines and all that in due time, but first, do the thing most never do. Step into an arena and own it. Run your race against you and do it every day. And perhaps that's the question we should all be asking of ourselves more. What areas of life is that courage required? Where can I lace up my shoes? Pay the price to step into a life-changing trajectory when you're fearful and insecure, when your mind is whispering, yeah, but you're already good at a few things, stick to those. No, where is it in your world that if you found the courage, excellence would unfold before you? Most of us know what that is. We think about it, we dream about it, but rarely do we act about it. So here's to being the one willing to go before you're ready, to play the student. Here's to lacing up those shoes and stepping into the race that's been calling you for as long as you can remember. Driving home, I thought about the most recent mountaintop, and how, to my dismay, it turned out to be nothing but another false summit. Another, ooh, so close. Perhaps even on the right track, but not yet, buddy. Have you ever been in a spot where you keep thinking you're almost there? A few minutes, hours, maybe days away, just to get pulled back into purgatory? Into that valley of despair, and you begin to wonder, was the progress all for naught? Or was it not even progress? In those moments, God, it's so easy to point out at the world and project. You're climbing, right? Up and up and up, and you're fighting your mind and body to get there, traversing the seemingly endless spaces, battling the relentless elements. The whole time there's one thing pulling you through. That mountaintop in the distance. That single peak. You can see it piercing the sky and calling your name. It's where you look when you're in doubt or pain or dealing with turbulence. That'll be me one day, you tell yourself. And then you get there. Like, you actually arrive. And the first thing that you realize that comes to your attention is that this peak isn't the end, not even close. False summit, right? Surprise, there's more to go, more pain to endure, more obstacles to navigate. When will this end? When will enough be enough? Which may have even been the literal words I muttered to myself as I drove home. Tired. Just tired. Tired of almost getting there, tired of almost feeling like enough, tired of, feeling like I'm a few feet away, only a few feet, but somehow forever a few feet away. To acquire and nurture a pain tolerance is a gift, I believe that. But any rational mind will at some point look around and realize there are parallel life tracks out there, parallel options, where a seemingly endless beatdown doesn't have to be the way. Any rational mind will pause and go, wait a minute, like, why am I enduring this? And my fingers gripped the wheel as I peered down Scottsdale Road. I could see a sea of traffic lights kind of disappearing into the distance. It's a single straight road that goes on for miles. And, the lights went on seemingly forever until they disappeared into the shadowy Arizona mountains. Reminded me of a very specific moment. One that I don't think I've actually recalled since it happened. But being younger, grade school, and seeing one of my art teachers create perspective on the chalkboard, making it appear with two lines getting closer and closer to one another as though they were a road disappearing into the distance. It was like, whoa, You can do that simply by starting the lines wide and bringing them closer together into an imaginary horizon or distance. That's amazing. It's just perspective. It's a trick, a feeling of being far away. Just a mirage. Lines are just lines, but position them right and the entire story as perceived by the onlooker changes. Yeah, that's it. The lines are an illusion, dressing up the importance of starting points and ending points. I started to think back to everything I'd ever accomplished, right? Cliff Notes version, obviously, from scoring my first goal in soccer, I think that's as far back as I can remember, to the current day. And I asked myself, what do those moments share, right? The second you arrive at said mountaintop. Well, the instinct is always, once you get there, to reminisce, to think back. When I hiked up Mount Humphreys with some friends a few months ago, and we made it to the top, the first thing we did was gather together and dissect the journey. Man, did you notice how it gets a little harder to breathe once you're near the top of the mountain? Man, Dave did all this with a sprained ankle. Beast. Remember how close he came to falling at that one point near the log? What did I tell you guys? Those fall summits were brutal, weren't they? Tugged at the heartstrings, or crazy how warm it was when we started, and then how the wind cuts through you as you ascend. Eric didn't even have a jacket. It's just interesting that that's our inclination, our instinct. Makes you wonder if, the quote-unquote mountaintop might just be a placeholder. A spot for us to remind ourselves that without the journey, that mountaintop is a car without wheels. And just like the car's entire point is transportation, the mountaintop's entire purpose is to shed light on how special the moments we overlooked, how powerful the obstacles we overcame. They remind us that the journey made us. We can make the lines converge temporarily, but the point is not they're intersecting way out in the make-believe distance. It's the courage, the story, the luxury that is making the trip. I say this not as some rationalization for falling short. That's not who I am. And I hope that's not who you are. We play to be better, to add value, to get the most out of this world that we can as our little planet dances around the sun. It's to remind myself and you that even when life is frustrating, amidst the periods of disappointment, beyond those inevitable swings and misses, despite the mountaintop feeling forever away, the stuff that matters is happening. And it's happening now, in real time, often hidden in plain view. It's there every time you press on. Those moments where you look up and take life in. When the hard things become your reason for growth, you create your own mountaintops. Perhaps the best line to come out of the show The Office. Andy Bernard's character says, "I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them." Whether it's a false summit, whether your summit still looks like, those two converging lines way out in the distance, or whether you're standing on it at this very moment, never forget that it's the trail you've blazed. It's who you've become that makes all the difference, that holds all the value. It's the steps you've taken that you will discuss and reminisce on and care about with the ones you love. This is nothing more than a call and a reminder to keep your head up, to keep chipping away day by day, to bring your voice, your message, and your power to the world relentlessly. Find gratitude in the journey. And you will find yourself exactly where you need to be. I'm a firm believer that very often the anticipation and anxiety around how long the pain will last hurts way more than the pain itself. And I think intrinsically we know this. When we know the sprint or push-up hold or wall sit will only last 15 seconds, it makes the discomfort exponentially more tolerable. And it does so immediately. It's like, oh, 15 seconds? Okay, no problem. But if someone just yells out, start sprinting and don't stop until I tell you to. Do a push-up hold or a wall sit until you hear a whistle. Your mind immediately becomes consumed with how long will this last? What if it's 3 minutes, 5, 10, then what? The task itself, regardless of how challenging, is almost always manageable. There's a quick little anecdote for you that brought this to the forefront of my mind again. So, yesterday I had a migraine, and it's been a long time since I've had one, but something triggered it, and it hit me, and it was the usual, room started spinning, head pounding, pulsing right behind my eyes, which, the light started bothering me so much that I had to keep them closed for most of the day. Yesterday was a lost day. And it came on during my morning workout, 7 a.m. intervals, and it was just a tough experience, right? My trainer's having me go from jump squats to decline push-ups to sprints and on and on. And it's a workout that's hard enough to do when you feel incredible, right? When you're energized and feel like $1,000,000. Let alone a headache that's almost debilitating, right? And the internal dialogue immediately emerged. Like, hey, say something, right? Do we call it off? Imagine how this is going to feel 40 minutes from now. It's going to be unbearable. You can't do this. That's the chatter going on in my brain. But ultimately, I don't know if it was pride or what, but I just made the decision. We're down here. He obviously drove here. Let's finish. And the footage is pretty funny to look back on. He took some, iPhone shots, and it's like, I look like I'm openly weeping the entire workout, just like the pain in my face, just pouting to myself as I do an ab circuit, right? But here's the reality. As awful as that was, you take it one set at a time, and even that misery is manageable. I finished about 90 minutes later, went upstairs, turned the lights off, and was in bed until dinner, right? But as I got up and kind of decompressed, I just kept thinking, dude, that sucked so much. And you did high intensity interval training in the heart of that chaos. And some of you might hear this and think I'm boasting or trying to sound cool. I promise you I'm not, right? Here is the reality, and why I think this matters to begin with. It has nothing to do with being special. Nothing. It has everything to do with how strong we are when we break life down into short intervals and stop looking at the work in totality. We can do the miraculous 15 seconds at a time. Even when our head's exploding as we're doing jump squats with the 20-pound medicine ball. I harp on this because it is the essence of greatness. To me, it's not just semantics, it's not just words, right? No one can run a marathon, but we can run 1 mile 26.2 times. Same thing? I think not. And it's the fear of the adversary in its entirety that stops us from dismantling it. We can do incredible things when we take what's in front of us and conquer it. Only what's in front of us, one step at a time, one brick at a time, one action at a time. The way you build a media company is the same way you run 100 miles. You just jump into it and tackle all the little, and sometimes not so little, obstacles as they emerge. as though you're jumping into a river and dealing with the current in real time. Do I ever want to do that again with a migraine? Hell no. But guess what? I know I can. And somehow that perspective made today's workout a little easier. I guarantee you in your world, there are things you either consciously or subconsciously shy away from because in totality, they just seem like too much. But the things that will transform you, that will change your life, they are too much, way too much. They're bigger than anything you can handle in one bite. But no one's asking you to do it all at once. The answer is in doing it, period. Jumping into that river or stream and navigating it piece by piece. There is so much power untapped residing in you, waiting to be released into the world. But you have to understand you are the gatekeeper of your own mind. Understand that you are the one slowing you down. You are the only one who sends permission slips in your life. When you get that, when you truly understand, life becomes an assortment of pieces waiting for an architect who can build, run, fight, create, endure, whatever it is, in 15-second increments for however long it takes. And my thought, well, I'll leave you with this. Right now, this moment is your time. But you have to gift yourself permission to make the most of it. Even when the conditions aren't ideal, even when the road seems long, at some point you'll look back over your shoulder and be shocked at the ground you covered 15 seconds at a time. You might not realize it yet, but you want more. More to carry, more to solve, more to prepare for. And I know the brain goes, I actually like the calm. I don't mind not having very much to worry about. I love these days with the clear schedule and no obligations. But the reality is your soul craves weight to carry. It just craves the right weight. That's why so much of life is allocated to understanding and finding the things that matter to you. Because once you've done that, you can spend the next chapter pursuing those things. It's always been funny to me how easy it is to trick ourselves into thinking we don't need growth. We don't need exploration or adventure. We're fine where we are. Because doing nothing feels good in the moment. No different than fast food or donuts and ice cream does. But it's stacking those things up every day, right? Those little nothings, those concessions, making their consumption a habit. You find yourself over time lost and living a fraction of the life that you're capable of living. Doing nothing feels good. Because in the moment, easy feels good. I mean, right now, if someone asked you, would you rather pick up 400 pounds or not? Easy one, right? The brain goes, I think not. Boom, easy W. Keep living your life. But you make that decision every day. All that short-term pleasure and escapism just means less strength and definition and growth than if you were to do the difficult thing. If you were to do the quote-unquote heavy lifting. Now imagine the journey of betterment. Imagine choosing to lift that weight, real or metaphorical. Every day, I'll just lift the 400 pounds. I'll take the trip. Accept the challenge. Do X, Y, or Z, right? The incremental progress, it starts to excite you. You feel the momentum. You start wondering, okay, well, how can I be better at this? You start pulling other aspects of your life into that orbit. Oh, maybe my diet and my sleep will help push me forward. Oh, maybe if I surround myself with people who have answers or who light me up, that'll help push me forward. You start seeing physical changes in the mirror. You start looking around and seeing your world changing. You start believing, as you earn that confidence day in and day out, that you're not the type of person who just sits back and accepts reality. You have data. You have proof to your left and your right. You have proof in the mirror. You are the type of person who changes that which you are not willing to accept. You are an architect. And just imagine with me, right, the liberation of being on a journey that ignites your soul, where every day is a puzzle to solve, another chapter in the greatest story of a lifetime. Imagine reinforcing every day that you are the kind of person who changes things, who gets up and does the difficult thing, and because of that, is ultimately powerful. Imagine choosing that weight of some sort. The gym, the job, the business, the relationship, the creative idea, whatever it is. Imagine putting that thing on your back and marching into the unknown. That's a trip that will change your life. Doing nothing, on the other hand, well, as I previously stated, seems to just string together temporary pleasures until you're forced to look around at the void that it's all created. Right? To do nothing is, in fact, a decision. It is a choice. Choosing stagnation, choosing what ifs, choosing regret. And that'll be yours until you're forced to look into the mirror and acknowledge perhaps the greatest superpower you possess has been left on the shelf. At some point, you need to reach over and pick it up. And that's what it all means, right? That's what this message conveys. It means in you exists the capacity to change yourself and the world. In you exists the capacity to do the incredible. I'll go as far as to say the miraculous. But you must first navigate beyond the quote-unquote nothing. You must first understand that procrastination and stagnation, they're killers. And I'm going to use a cliche here because, well, cliches seem to do their job of simplifying the complex. So let's take a big name. We all know Michael Jordan, one of the best basketball players ever. We all know how great he was. We all know how hard he worked. But it's interesting to imagine him choosing nothing over the path he chose. It's almost unfathomable, right? Imagine him choosing the TV over basketball. He would have been depriving himself and the world of greatness. Imagine him choosing video games over sculpting his body and improving his athletic performance, right? But he didn't do that. He chose to carry the weight. He chose to carry the burden of excellence. He wasn't perfect, and no human beings are, but he was focused and willing to trade many of the common everyday pleasures we all know for greatness. Happy to. And I believe you have MJ level talent in you. And that's not fluff, kindergarten teacher, kumbaya stuff, right? We're all great at something. We can't all be NBA All-Stars, but we all have our thing. And more often than not, that thing is just left alone. It's left untapped, undeveloped. For you, maybe it is athletics. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's debate. Maybe it's mathematics. Maybe it's videography. Maybe it's, anything. Collecting, studying, selling baseball cards. Maybe it's poetry, data analysis, beauty, the fashion industry. Maybe it's cooking. Maybe it's telling jokes. You get the idea. You have a thing, a proclivity to something that you both enjoy and you have a natural, biological tendency and desire to pursue. But are you willing to carry the weight required to make that thing special? To me, that's the question. Are you willing to be a megaphone to the world? But that won't be easy, right? It's I can picture it now, hills to climb, all the things I don't understand, the criticism. Who am I to go that far outside the norm? Well, you are the Michael Jordan of your pursuit, should you accept it, should you green light it. Because nothing, and I mean this, I believe it wholeheartedly, nothing hurts worse than being a Michael Jordan who traded the basketball for daily fast food and drinking 4 nights a week with his pals. The world won't know what it was deprived of, how could it? But you will. And perhaps you already feel that, and if you do, good. That is your sign. Because the past has nothing to do with where you can go now. You can make something special by deciding now, by cutting away the narratives and stories and limitations keeping you in place. So go. In this moment, towards your horizon, carry that weight like it matters, like it's everything. Because time will reveal that, in fact, it was.